Hi, my name is Tamara, and you are watching Things Even a Monkey Should Know. Thanks so much for watching again today. As you know, if you've watched some of my other videos, I am not a professional at this do-it-yourself stuff. I'm just a girl who's figured out that there are a lot of things around the house and out in the yard and on my cars that I can do myself and often save myself both time and money. And a lot of times I can get a custom job on something that I would not have otherwise been able to get a custom job on, right? So I hope that you have saved both of those things and learned those things too. So today is part 2 of 4 in me redoing the floor in my shower, and today we're going to actually be applying the tile to the shower floor. So as always, let's go over the things that we're going to need today. Today is the fun part to me because it's the actual tile application. So you will need to have chosen the tiles that you want to put down and gotten the appropriate quantity of them. Now, you know how I do not like to do things the traditional way, and well, this is no exception. So instead of doing typical tiles in the bottom of my shower, in the floor of my shower, I've decided to do glass gems. I know you guys might be thinking I'm crazy. I've got multiple sizes of them, but I promise I'm not. I've even got some tiny ones. And the way that this idea came about was I got to see a friend's shower a few weeks ago that was beautifully tiled on the floor in Riverstone, and it felt really, really nice on my feet, and it was beautiful. But the thing with Riverstone is that it only comes in neutral colors. I couldn't find a really bold color because I thought, well, that would be a really great thing to put down on my shower floor, right? So I started thinking about other things that would have the same feel as Riverstone, but that I could get in different colors. So that's when I came up with this idea. If you were to consider doing tile with glass gems, just be mindful of the fact that some of them that you can purchase are simply clear gems that have been coated with a color. Now that is going to wear off over time, especially if it's in a wet environment like a shower. So you want to make sure that you get a gem that is actually whatever color glass, in this case red, through and through. So if I was to break this with a hammer, all the shards are going to be red. So it's just something good to keep in mind and to know in case you decided to go this route. So since I am doing what I am, I'm not going to have sheets of tile to deal with like you traditionally would, which also means that I am not going to be using tile cutters because I'm not going to have that need, because I can just place everything, you know, work it in where I want it to go. But if you were using traditional tile, you would need to have a pair of tile nippers at the very least. Maybe a diamond blade for a saw, or a tile saw rather, because those use water. And if you don't cut a tile using water, you're going to heat it up and break it. So I will not be using that, as I said, but those are a couple of extra things that you might need were you to be doing traditional tile. Now, to stick it down, you're going to need the proper kind of thin set. In my case, I got a mosaic and glass thin set. This is formulated specifically for glass tile or glass in general. You're going to need a couple, well, I'm using small buckets because I'm doing small quantities. Now, what they say is you shouldn't mix up any more thin set than you can use within about 20 minutes. Since I'm going to be individually placing these, I'm guessing that my quantities are going to be fairly small. So I'm going to be mixing by hand. Here's my mixing stick in a bucket. Make sure you have a very clean bucket. And also, if you're using a clear glass, you want to make sure that your thin set is white so that the light reflects back through that clear glass, and you can actually, and it sort of glows on the floor. Anyway, back to how much thin set you'll be mixing at a time. If you are doing traditional tile where you have the sheets of tiles, then you're going to obviously be able to lay more than I will. So you might want a bigger bucket. You also might want there's an attachment that you can get for a drill that is a mixing attachment that makes mixing up that thin set go a lot more quickly. But again, that's going to be for a larger quantity, which I am not going to be doing. Since I am doing the thin set in the shower, I almost forgot this, it's over here. Instead of using traditional water to mix with my thin set, I'm going to be using a polymer additive, which just helps to keep things glued down and stable for the long term. And again, it's because it is going to be in a watery environment. If you're doing something like a kitchen backsplash, you would not need that additive, though it's not going to hurt you to use it. It just makes everything stronger. Okay, in addition to that, you will want to have a rag available, because you'll probably need to wipe your hands, wipe your tiles, wipe up some spills, things like that, and you'll probably want to have it damp. You will need to have a sponge for the same reasons. You will need to have your appropriately sized V-notch trowel. Mine is a 3/16 inch, is about the smallest notches you can get because my tiles are fairly small. Generally, your tiles that you use on the box, they will tell you what size trowel, what size notches in your trowel you're going to need. So this is very important. And then I also have just a couple of additional little mixing containers just in case, because I like to have random containers around because you never know when you're going to need them. And then one last thing that is always good to have whenever you're dealing with powdery stuff that has a concrete base in it is to have just a respirator, so that whenever you initially put that powder into your container to mix, you're not breathing any of the dust that comes out. Of course, you can take this off once everything gets wet. So my shower is cleaned of all the tile. It's cleaned of a lot of the old thin set. You can actually leave up to an 1/8 inch of old thin set in your shower, wherever your tile area is, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Now, there are a few areas where things are not quite level, so before we go to apply the tile, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my thin set that I'm going to be using to stick the tile down, or in my case the gems down, and I'm going to go ahead and mix up a small quantity of that in here, so that I can create a patch essentially to make all of those areas smooth. Now it's just a few areas in there, so I'm not going to mix up all that much. Now what the instructions they give you for mixing on the bag do not say, no, let's go ahead and, well, I guess I can't put this on because I'm trying to talk while I'm doing this. The instructions on the bag do not tell you how much to mix up. If you want a small quantity, they tell you how to mix up the entire bag. So what you want to look for is basically a consistency like peanut butter whenever you mix. So I know that I don't need all that much in here, and I'm probably going to be adding a little more powder here. Let's get my polymer additive open. And I'm going to go ahead and just put a little bit in here just to give me an idea. And what you do once you have it in here and you figure out if you've got the correct quantity, which I do not have, as you can see, that is not anywhere near the consistency of peanut butter, which is what I'm looking for. It's way too dry. Whoops, now's the time when I need that rag that I already put in the shower. So once you've figured out if you have the correct quantity in here, you want to go ahead and mix for 3 minutes. So I'm going to set a timer to mix this for 3 minutes. So you guys can see the consistency of that is a really nice peanut buttery sort of consistency. And I added a little bit of powder during the course of that mixing. So now I'm going to let it rest for 10 minutes and then I should be ready to apply it. So we've let it set for 10 minutes. The instructions are to mix it up for another 2 minutes, but we're just going to give it a good little mix here. And it's mostly just to make sure that everything is really thoroughly mixed, because you don't want to You don't want a halfway done mixing job here. And this is thoroughly mixed. So now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go over to the shower and I'll move you guys. So what I'm gonna do now, guys, is I'm gonna take my, the flat side of my trowel, and I am going to do, there's a couple of places where, well, it's mostly actually back here where things are really uneven. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna splot me some thin set down in there. And now if you have really big holes, this is not the way to do this, but whenever you have minor areas that you are needing to just smooth out and even out and make for a good place to lay your tile, you can totally use the thin set. And this would be for areas that are probably 1/8 of an inch in height difference or less. So this is also the time that you can, if you have any other areas that need to be evened out, like maybe some little areas in the rest of the floor where you didn't quite get up all of the thin set perhaps, and there's a little bit of an unevenness, this is the time to go ahead and take care of that now and just get a nice smooth finish on it so that you have a good smooth place to lay your tile. So I have waited a few hours to let this thin set, the thin set sort of patches that I did, just to give them time to set. Now they're not set enough that I would walk on them, but they are set enough that whenever I start applying the other thin set and the tile over them, it's not going to move. You wouldn't want to do it immediately because you would move around all the work that you just did to make that smooth. So I just heard my timer go off and I was mixing a batch of thin set. Now as you can see, I didn't mix that much because I don't want to overextend myself as far as the how much tile I can get put down, but I am doing everything possible to extend the working life of the thin set. That polymer additive as opposed to water is one thing that will help. I'm actually going to spray down the area that I am going to apply the thin set to with a thin sheet of water, not sheet, but you know, with some water to help the concrete not draw the water out of the thin set as quickly. And I just want to tell you guys, it is really important to give the thin set time to set that 10 minutes after you've initially mixed it, because if there are any lumps in it, it'll give them time to absorb all the water, because you do not want to be trying to work with a lumpy thin set mix. It'll drive you crazy. So then just mixing it again at the end, this is a very tight space, will help redistribute any lumps that happen to be in there. So I'm going to be mixing up several batches of this, as you can see, but this is a good start and it'll kind of let me know where I am. Now, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mist the area that I'm going to be applying the thin set to, just to help it a little bit more as far as giving me more working time. I'm going to go ahead and plop all this stuff out, or quite a bit of it. And you know, it is important also, another note, my bucket was very clean. If you're doing a clear glass tile or transparent glass tile like I am, you do not want to have a bunch of dirt and junk in your thin set. You don't want that to happen anyway, but especially whenever you are doing something transparent. So I'm going to go ahead and use my trowel and I'm going to spread around what I just put out. Okay, now that we have that pretty evenly spread out, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use the notch side of the trowel to help continue spreading that, and also to give us these very necessary, little air pockets for laying the tile. That's the whole point of having these grooves is, and I'm sorry I'm talking like a robot, I'm trying to concentrate on what I'm doing and speak at the same time. That doesn't always work out that well for me. The whole point of these grooves is to allow for air to get in under the tile while it's setting. So your final passes for your thin set should be fairly straight and even rows if possible. Now I do have a bit of a differently shaped shower, so mine may not be as straight as a more traditional rectangular or square space would be. But it looks like we're good now. So I am going to start pressing my tiles in, and if you had sheets of tiles, this would go much more quickly for you than it's going to go for me. But that's okay, I knew what I was getting into. So you just want to press them in enough that you get them adhered well to the thin set. You don't want thin set to come squishing out the sides. This is going to take a long time. And if you had traditional tiles, you would also be using, oh no, you don't want to drop things like that either. You would also be using tile spacers, which again, I am not using. So I'm not going to say, did you see how easy that was? Because that really wasn't that easy, but I also did not expect it to be easy. But here we are, 9 hours later, I think, and the tile is in. Now, of course, I did take a couple of breaks for eating, and I had to break now and then to remix or to mix up more mortar to lay, or thin set to lay the glass pieces down with. But overall, I'm really happy with how it came out. And I'm, you know, even though it took a while, I feel like it was worth it because I have a unique shower floor now. So that was all of today's job and today's segment. So it was just laying the tile today. I am going to do a little more cleanup on it once it sets. I got a little bit of thin set on the shower walls, but it just seemed like too much of a pain right now to clean it up. And actually all I have to do is just take that flat, the flat razor blade. My brain is too dead for me to think what that's called right now. And just scrape the walls off. So that stuff actually comes off really easily. Now I was getting it off of the glass pieces as I went, because since those are curved, they would be a little bit more difficult to clean up once it's dry. So I hope you enjoyed today's show. I hope that it gave you some ideas about laying tile. If you're laying traditional tile, of course, you're going to be doing more measuring and cutting and keeping things straight and things like that. But since mine was a little different, then I didn't have to do that. But anyway, I hope it helped you. And thank you so much for joining me today. Thanks very much to everybody who has subscribed already. If you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and hit that beautiful subscribe button on that general side of the screen. And if you enjoyed the show, please share it with your friends. Thank you, like I said, for watching. And until next week, have a great week, and I'll see you again soon.